In the remote Bavarian countryside of 1922, a small farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck became the scene of one of the most gruesome and baffling unsolved mysteries in history. The farm was home to the Gruber family, Andreas and Cecilia Gruber, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and her two young children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. They lived a quiet, secluded life, largely cut off from their neighbors, and had only just hired a new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who arrived on the day of the tragedy. What makes this case particularly chilling is not just the brutal nature of the crime, but also the series of strange and eerie events that occurred both before and after the murders, leaving investigators and locals haunted to this day. The nightmare began on March 31, 1922, when neighbors noticed that the Gruber family had not been seen for several days. Young Cecilia had missed school, the family hadn't attended church, and their usually bustling farm had gone silent. Concerned, neighbors ventured to the farm to check on them. What they found would forever mark Hinterkaifeck as a place of horror. In the barn, they discovered the bodies of Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and her young daughter stacked on top of one another, partially covered with hay. Inside the house, the body of the maid Maria was found in her bed, alongside young Joseph, who had been killed in his crib. The sheer brutality of the murders shocked the tight-knit rural community. The weapon used in the murders was a mattock, a heavy farming tool typically used for digging and chopping. Each victim had suffered multiple blows to the head, and it was clear that the killer had acted with precision and intent. But the horror didn't stop there. What made this case even more sinister were the events leading up to the murders. Andreas Gruber had told neighbors about strange occurrences on the farm. He mentioned finding footprints in the snow leading toward the house, but oddly, there were no tracks leading away. The family also reported hearing strange noises coming from the attic. Andreas investigated but found no one. To make matters worse, the family noticed items missing from their home, suggesting someone had been living there secretly. Even before these events, Hinterkaifeck had an ominous reputation. The previous maid had left the farm after just a few months, claiming the house was haunted. She spoke of hearing footsteps, strange whispers, and an overwhelming feeling of dread that she couldn't explain. While the Gruber family dismissed her fears, her replacement, Maria Baumgartner, would tragically arrive at the farm on the very day the murders were committed. It was her first and last day of work. Whether or not she sensed the unease in the household will never be known, but her fate became entwined with the dark legacy of Hinterkaifeck. The days following the murders revealed even more disturbing details. Despite the killings, someone had remained in the house afterward. Neighbors reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney and noted that livestock had been fed and meals appeared to have been prepared in the kitchen. This meant the killer had not fled immediately, but had instead stayed on the property, living among the bodies of their victims. This chilling fact made the crime even more macabre and raised countless questions about the perpetrator's state of mind. Who could commit such a heinous act and then remain in the home, undisturbed and unfazed? Perhaps the most haunting detail of all came from the autopsy. 7-year-old Cecilia's body revealed that she had clumps of her own hair tightly gripped in her hands, suggesting she had been alive for hours after the attack and had pulled out her hair in terror or pain. The thought of the little girl lying there, suffering and terrified in the dark barn, is almost too much to bear. This small but harrowing detail added to the growing horror of the case and painted a picture of unimaginable cruelty and violence. The police investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders was extensive. More than 100 suspects were questioned, ranging from neighbors and distant relatives to drifters and vagrants. The family's isolation and strained relationships with their community made the case particularly challenging. Andreas Gruber was known to be a harsh and unpleasant man, and rumors of an incestuous relationship between him and Victoria added a dark undertone to the investigation. It was speculated that Joseph, Victoria's youngest child, was the product of this relationship, a fact that could have provided someone with a motive for revenge. However, no concrete evidence was ever found to confirm these suspicions. Adding to the mystery were the strange and seemingly deliberate details at the crime scene. Despite the brutality of the murders, no valuables were taken from the home, ruling out robbery as a motive. The footprints in the snow leading to the house, the noises in the attic, and the missing keys all hinted at someone who had been watching and waiting, possibly for weeks, before striking. The fact that the killer fed the animals and cooked meals after the murders suggested a level of familiarity with the farm that was deeply unsettling. It was as if the killer had made themselves at home in the Gruber's absence, adding a disturbing psychological element to the crime. One of the most baffling aspects of the Hinterkaifeck case was the lack of definitive leads. Despite the police's best efforts, they were unable to identify a suspect. Theories ranged from a disgruntled neighbor to a passing stranger, but none of these could be conclusively proven. The isolation of the farm meant there were no witnesses, and the lack of modern forensic techniques at the time severely hampered the investigation. Although the case was reopened several times in later years, including an attempt to solve it using modern forensic methods, no definitive answers have ever been found. As the investigation progressed, more unsettling details emerged. The family's financial records showed that Victoria Gabriel had withdrawn a significant sum of money from her bank account shortly before the murders. This raised suspicions that she might have been preparing to leave the farm or pay someone off, but no one could confirm her intentions. Some speculated that Victoria had been involved in a secret relationship or was planning to escape the oppressive environment created by her father, Andreas Gruber. These theories added layers of intrigue but did little to uncover the killer's identity. The family's strained relationships with the local community further complicated matters. Andreas Gruber was a man of ill repute, described by neighbors as abusive, controlling, and cruel. Many in the village avoided him, and rumors of his incestuous relationship with Victoria were common knowledge. Some believed that a disgruntled neighbor or someone seeking revenge might have been responsible for the murders. However, these were merely speculations, and no one in the community came forward with credible information. One of the most compelling theories involved Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor who had a complicated relationship with the Grubers. Lorenz had once been romantically involved with Victoria and even claimed to be the father of her son Josef. However, Andreas reportedly forbade the relationship, leading to bad blood between Lorenz and the family. Some villagers believed that Lorenz might have committed the murders out of jealousy or revenge. His behavior after the discovery of the bodies only fueled these suspicions. Lorenz was among the first to enter the crime scene, and his handling of the bodies and the way he moved around the farm seemed strangely familiar, almost as if he knew the layout too well. Despite this, no concrete evidence tied him to the crime. As the years passed, the Hinterkaifeck murders became a ghost story of sorts, haunting the collective memory of the region. The farmhouse itself was eventually demolished, and a small shrine was erected on the site to honor the victims. However, the mystery refused to die. Generations of amateur sleuths and crime enthusiasts have revisited the case, poring over old police files, testimonies, and photographs in search of the truth. Each new theory, however, seemed to only deepen the mystery rather than resolve it. Modern forensic analysis has been attempted in recent years, but the passage of time has erased many of the crucial clues. In 2007, a team of German forensic experts reviewed the case and concluded that they had a prime suspect, but they chose not to release the name out of respect for the suspect's descendants. This decision has sparked controversy and frustration among those who hoped for closure, leaving the case as open-ended as ever. The lack of answers has allowed for more outlandish theories to take root. Some believe the murders were the work of a drifter or a gang of criminals who happened upon the isolated farm. Others suggest supernatural elements, pointing to the eerie noises in the attic and the haunted reputation of the farm. While these theories are far-fetched, They reflect the human need to explain the inexplicable and to find meaning in a case so deeply shrouded in mystery. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Hinterkaifeck murders is the sheer brutality of the crime juxtaposed with the calculated precision of the killer. Whoever committed these acts was not only violent, but also methodical, leaving behind a crime scene that offered no clear answers. The killer's ability to evade capture and disappear without a trace has cemented this case as one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. For the surviving villagers, the Hinterkaifeck murders left a scar that never truly healed. The quiet community was forever changed, with fear and suspicion lingering for decades. Families locked their doors, and trust became a rare commodity. To this day, the story serves as a cautionary tale about the fragility of safety and the unknown dangers that can lurk even in the most seemingly peaceful places. As we reflect on the Hinterkaifeck murders, we are left with more questions than answers. What drove someone to commit such a heinous act? Was it a crime of passion, revenge, or something far more sinister? And how could a killer live among their victims, cooking meals and tending to livestock, without feeling the weight of their actions? These questions linger, ensuring that the story of Hinterkaifeck remains as haunting as it is unsolved. So, what do you think really happened that fateful night in 1922? Was the killer someone the Gruber family knew, or a stranger who stumbled upon an opportunity? Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling stories like this. Together, we can continue to explore the darkest corners of history and uncover the secrets that refuse to stay buried.